Hi friends, today we'll discuss Union government's proposal to amend the cadre rules for all India services. So, proposal to amend cadre rules of all India services. So, it's a union government's fresh proposal to amend the cadre rules of all India services. All India services. Recently, Union government has sent a fresh proposal in the month of December and also in the month of January to amend this cadre rules for all India services. Initially, they have sent it for Indian Administrative Service and later they have sent it to both Indian Police Service and as well as the Forest Service. And this IAS, IPS, IFS, we call it as All India Services. So, what are these proposals to amend the cadre rules? What exactly the meaning of this cadre rules? Why union government is proposing that rules? If at all union government want to do the changes, why they are proposing, why they are not bringing directly? So, these issues we will discuss in this video. And this is very important topic because it involves the concept of federalism. And at the same time, it involves about the officers or the permanent administrative structure or the steel frame of this country. So, that is the reason why this issue is very important, politically sensitive, administratively very important. And as an aspirant of UPSC, it is very important for us because you may get a question on this. So, now before I entering into this cadre rules and this amendment of cadre rules, first I will explain the operation of the All India services, that means how these services normally operates. Later I will come to what are these cadre rules and how they are going to amend and why they are going to do and what are the alternative solutions, can it be done or cannot it be taken, these things we will discuss. First of all, when it comes to the All India services are one of the novel feature of Indian Constitution. All India services are one of the novel feature of Indian Constitution because Indian Constitution, if you looking into the structure, it looks like federal, but the operation in some cases it is unitary. According to the Supreme Court judgment, India is a federal polity. Still, whether we are completely federal or whether we are completely unitary, and some people say it's a bargaining cooperative, it's a bargaining federalism. Some people say cooperative federalism. But anyhow, the Indian polity is a mix of both union and as well as the federal characters. And if you looking into this All India services, this is one of the important aspect of the Indian polity, and this All India services denotes the unitary feature of the Indian Constitution. So, how come they indicate the unitary feature of the Indian polity? Because these are the services, here three services are there: IAS, Indian Administrative Service, Indian Police Service and Indian Forest Service. So, these three service officers, they are recruited by the union government. They are recruited by the union government through Union Public Service Commission, UPSC. They are recruited by the union government and initially the training is given by the union government. Once the training is completed, they will allot them to a particular state. That we will call it as cadre allocation. That means though they are recruited by the union, they are not working for the union, but they are working for the states. They are working for the states and their entire life is with the states. And they literally works in the state government itself. They will take care about the administrative aspects of the state. In various positions they will serve. and their salaries are given by the state government. Their allowances are taken care by the, their salaries are given by the state government and their allowances are taken care by the state government. But union government will prescribe how much salary you must give, because in order to maintain uniformity across all the officers, across the country, all the officers, they will prescribe how much you must give. But they will serve at the state level. Why we have brought this type of administrative system in our country? Because India is not completely a unitary state. It is a state, and it's a country in that you have different states, and each and every state has some responsibilities, and that responsibilities must be fulfilled by the state. At the same time, union is also having some sort of responsibilities, and they are combinedly having some responsibilities. We call it as concurrent list. Now union is recruiting these officers and they are allotting to the states, and these people will work in the state. And in order to bring some sort of uniformity in the administration across the country, we have followed this model. And all the competing of all the officers who are knowledgeable, that means who cleared this exam, they will be posted to the different states. This brings unity in diversity also. That means an officer belonging to a particular state cannot work in that state, and he will be normally posted in another state, and if he is meritorious and he is able to get that opportunity, he will serve. But normally in most of the cases, these people don't serve in their own state, and you will have a choice. So that means this brings some sort of uniformity, and also some of these officers will be deputed to the union level. So deputed or deputation means for a temporary period. These officers from each and every state will go to the union government and they will work for the union government. And why this type of mechanism they have devised? Because if you directly recruit the officers to the union level, they don't know the ground realities of the country. That is the reason why the officers who have worked at the field level, who has worked at the state level, they know many things. That is the reason why if you depute them, then they are in a better position to make the policies. That is the reason why we have devised such a structure. So ours, according to the constitution, does really this all India services belongs to union or state? They are recruited by the union, but they are working for the states. And all the disciplinary actions with respect to the all India services will be taken by the union government, but temporary suspension can be done by the state government. That means they are something operating between union and state. But they are working, they are the property of the state and as well as the union. Union is having at most, that means the highest regulatory power as far as this functioning of all India services are concerned. The immediate regulation lies with the state government. That means a state can take any disciplinary action on this and union can take. But the ultimate power lies with the union. A temporary action can be taken by the state government. But they will work and they will nurture in a particular state, and they will work in the state, they will work for the state. But this is something, a special feature about this all India services. Because if at all you want to make an effective policy, definitely the people who are having a field level knowledge, they have to frame the policies, and that has become possible because of this. So this is something about all India services. Now when I say this is about all India services, this all India services, when it comes to this All India Services Act, especially this Indian Administrative Service Act and Indian Administrative Service Act that was brought in the year 1951, and Indian Police Service Act was in the year 1951, and Indian Forest Service Act, actually this service was created later. So based on this, they have framed the rules to this act. So in the 1954, in the 1954, we have framed some cadre rules under this particular act for both IAS and IPS, and for the IFS we have made it in the year 1966. So the cadre rules of IAS officers of 1954, the cadre rules of Indian Police Service officers of 1954, the cadre rules of 1960s, cadre rules of Indian Forest Service in 1966. Now these rules and regulations are guiding the how the cadre allocation must be done to these three type of officers. So now the point you understood, like these are the all India service officers, they will work both at the state level and at the union level, and in order to manage that, when they can come to the union, when they will be in the state, that will be decided by these rules. That will be decided by these rules. So that is the reason why these cadre rules are very, very important as far as this management of officers in between both union and state. They are actually doing that thing, and they are important. Now, what are the existing cadre rules and what the government is proposing to amend? And when I say amend, it's not amending the act, it's only amending the rules and regulations. They are not, because parliament approval is not necessary to amend the rules, because we are not amending the act, we are only amending the rules. So what are the existing rules with respect to this cadre management? That means when they can do when they can do the work at the state level and when they can do the work at the union level. Now we'll see the present rules. Normally, once the officer is recruited, he will be assigned to a particular state, but only for a limited amount of time in his entire service, he will work at the union level. It is not something like he will completely work at the union level and for a limited amount he will work at the state level. No. For only limited amount of time he will be work at the union level, but otherwise rest of his service he has to contribute to the state itself. Because a lot of functions will happen at the state itself. And central cadres, the central government is having their own central cadre posts like income tax, railways, indirect tax, like many things, foreign service, they are all central posts. They will directly work it under union government, and they will perform the functions of the exclusive jurisdiction where union is having. But these are something a very different post, and they are very strategic posts. So the topmost, the talented people will be recruited into that IAS, and these people will hold the key positions in the government. Now, and as you know that these people are belong to the state, but sometimes they will be deputed to the union level. Now, I will tell you what is the present case. Just assume in some state, just assume, take a case of state. So union government will allocate the all India services, that means the all India services officers to a state. It includes both IAS, IPS and IFS. When these officers are allocated to a particular state, who will decide the number and how they will decide the number? That number, that means how many all India services officers must be allocated to a particular state, will be decided by the union in consultation with the state government. Because state government have some requirements, some states may increase their districts, some state may need some extra resources. So it's all depending on state to state, but union government and it includes the geography, population, everything, it matters. So when union government is making this deciding this number in consultation with the state, so that many officer strength will be sent by the union. That means whenever the recruitment is happening, based on the strength of the state, then those officers will be sent here, because every day some people retires also. So this allocation, that means the deciding number or the total number of all India services officers will be reviewed by the union government for every 5 years. It's not static, because in the rules they mention, like the rule 4 mention, like, so this number of all India services officers has to be allocated to the state, will be decided regularly for every 5 years. So for every 5 years there is a revision, and based on the requirement of the state they will increase that number. So that is how the total, the number is decided by the union government in consultation with the state. Just assume 100 officers are allocated, it includes both IAS, IPS and IFS. Just assume, just assume. Now in this 100 officers, now the existing cadre rule says that, not more than 40% of the officers, not more than 40% of the officers, not more than the 40% of the officers means maximum of 40% of the officers can be deputed to the central government. So the state has to depute, the All India service officers to the central government office at any point of time, but that cannot be more than 40% of the total cadre strength. So whatever the total cadre strength is there, in that not more than 40%, the state has to depute its officers to the union level. Now how they will do? Can a state send anyone to the union level? No, there is a procedure. The procedure is first of all, the state asks the All India service officers like who are interested to go to the union, because officer must agree. So who are all interested to go to the union level? So suppose, just assume they have taken a pool. In that pool, just assume 50 people, that means out of 100, 50 people are interested in going to the union level, and this list of 50 people will be sent by the state to the union, and the union, by looking into their their performance and all, they will decide some people. Just assume they cannot decide more than 40, but anyhow just assume like they have decided that 20 people should be sent to the union level, or otherwise we will take 30. Now if the union decided these 30 people, will these 30 people directly goes to the union? No. Now these 30 people should have an NOC from the state government. That means no objection certificate from the state government. So state government has asked you to give the list of interested people who want to go to the center. Later center decides how many people they want to take, and it should not be maximum 40%, it should not be more than 40%, and those people who are selected by the union should get the NOC from the state. That means no objection certificate. That means the state must give that we are ready to relieve this officer to the union level, and this officer can work both at the union level or he can work in other state also. That provision is also there, but only for limited amount of time, because they are all allotted to this particular state. Now the state has to give NOC. If state don't give NOC, if the state start delaying the process, then they have to wait. But if the state decided like they don't want to send, and now in this process, if there is any, suppose in this process, if there is any dispute, dispute in the sense if there is any disagreement, happen, then the union government's view shall prevail. That means the point is the state has to give a concurrence to the officer, or the state government must have a concurrence with the union government if at all we want to promote an officer from the state to the union level. But if there is a disagreement, ultimately union's view is prevailed. These are the rules. These are the existing rules. But the point you need to understand here is, normally if the state outrightly say that I don't want to depute this officer, then the question of disputes come, then union government view will be prevailed. But if a state don't take any decision, simply it is delaying the thing, then union cannot take any decision under the present circumstances. Because I am saying like there must be a disagreement. Disagreement happen only when state gives its own assent, whether the state, when the state exactly gives his opinion whether they want to send it or whether they don't want to send it. But when they are delaying the things, then it will be very difficult for the union also. And if you take the case of some of the officers, I give some two examples. Like when the former chief minister of Tamil Nadu, Jayalalitha, was the chief minister, and there was an arrest happened, the opposition, the then opposition member Karunanidhi and the DMK party people has arrested. And immediately, because it is a political vendetta that has done by the Jayalalitha's government, now immediately union government asked the officers involved, that means the IPS officers involved in that activity, to surrender to the or to come to the deputation to the union government, that is the union government circular. But immediately Jayalalitha's government did not agree to relieve these officers, then immediately centre withdrawn his plan. And even in the year 2009, during last year, that means in the year 2021, when some officers, some IPS officers, there was a security lapse when BJP president visited the state of West Bengal. Immediately union called that 3 officers to the union level, but the Mamata Banerjee government has not given approval to that. That means in the present circumstance, if the state is rejecting the proposal, if the state is not accepting it, normally unions are dropping its proposals. So that means though it looks like union is having an overriding power, but the state, once the state decided or once the state started delaying the process, then normally union government is not moving forward in that particular decision. So this is how the states are exercising the power as far as this All India services are concerned. Because some people may be in key positions, some people may be given a key projects, maybe they are in a critical position, so like anything. So when state is interested, when state want to send and state gives NOC, then only normally the officer goes to the union level. But now what happened is union government has bringing some sort of amendment to these cadre rules, and whatever the rules that I have mentioned, they are under the 6th clause of this cadre rules of All India services, and there is no cadre rules of All India services, cadre rules for IAS, cadre rules for IPS, cadre rules for IFS. That means they are going to bring the rule, they are going to change the cadre rules in all 3 cadre rules. That means they are going to do the change for both IAS, IPS and IFS. Now, so this 100 we will call it as central deputation, this 40 we will call, or whatever the 40% or this we will call it as central deputation reserve. So central deputation reserve should not be more than 40%. So the point is, the state will make a list available based on the choice of the officers, union selects, state will give NOC, then only they will go. And you may get a question, sir, how long these people will serve the union government? Okay, they are going, but how long they are going to serve? That means how many years they are going to survive? That means they are going to serve in the union level. The point is, actually they have taken 30 years of your service period, In this 30 years, you can serve maximum 7 years, In this maximum 7 years, at a stretch, you can serve for maximum of 5 years. At a stretch, maximum of 5 years you can. Suppose just I served 5 years. Then immediately you have to give a minimum cooling off period of 3 years. Minimum of 3 years. Maximum anything. Minimum of 3 years. And after that you can do remaining 2 years. Suppose if you do 4 and after minimum cooling of 3 years, you can go for another 3. So this is the thing. But once they completed 30 years of service, but still they are in service, then after that they can serve any amount of time until their superannuation. And after superannuation, if the government creates an extra post and if they wanted you to be in that, then you can. But normally is this 7 years is the maximum total, and in that maximum 5 years at a stretch, but in between the two stretches at least the cooling off period should be minimum of 3 years, and once the 30 years is over there is no limit on the period for the deputation. So this is. Now who will depute these officers? Who will depute these officers? When I say union government, who exactly deals about this deputation process? This deputation process has taken by Department of Personnel and Training for IAS officers, Ministry of Home Affairs for IPS officers, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change for the IFS officers. Normally these officers deals about this entire process, okay. Now once you understood this, now what are the rules that are changed and why they are important now? See, I'll give a number so that you can understand. See, today I'll give a simple number as far as IAS officers are concerned. Today across the country almost 6,000, I am giving a rough number, almost 6,000 IAS officers are there. Almost 6,000 IAS officers are there. Now in these 6,000 IAS officers, they are working across the country. In various states. Now out of these 6,000 officers, approximately 6,000 officers, only 450 officers are on central deputation. Only 450 people are on the central deputation. The point is, what I have said earlier is, not more than 40% of the people, should be declared as a central deputation reserve. But is it 40%? No. I said okay, maximum 40%. Okay, maximum 40% means 2,400. But what is the existing percentage? It's not even 10%. Why this is happening? Why only less amount of people? See, you cannot accommodate this 2,400 officers at the union level. There is no much work at the union level. But the point is this 450 is sufficient? That's what the point. But why it is only 450? What is the problem? Did union government is not interested in taking the officers? Or did the officers are not interested to go to the union level? Or does the states are not relieving the officers to go to the union level? So there are three reasons here. One is either central government may not accept the officers from the state, or otherwise officer himself is not interested to go to the union level. Third one is maybe state governments are not interested in sending the officers to the union level. And union government's accusation is, the DOPT's accusation is that though the officers are interested, some of the officers are interested, because when officer is not interested, you can't take him. But though sometimes the officers are interested, the state is not relieving these officers. Because of that, there is a serious shortage of the IAS officers, especially at the union level. So that is the reason why, in order to, because union is also performing lot of important functions, and the shortage of the officers at the union level will have a serious problems on the administration of the entire country. So that is the reason why, by saying this reason, they are amending the rules whichever I have explained now. So the class 6 of the All India the Indian Administrative Service rules, and also the rules of the other services, they are going to amend. Now, what are the amendments that they are going to bring? Because these rules are important, and these rules are creating lot of problem. Because the central government view is that, and the numbers are correct, 450 is correct, but why there is a less strength at the union level, why there is a less deputation? So that we will see now. Now I'll give you the changes that were brought, that means they are only proposing to bring the changes. They have already sent the proposals to the state and they have received the whatever the answer or reply from the state, and they are seriously looking into that. We don't know when they are going to change, but these are the proposing amendments, and anyhow they are going to do, but we will see whether they will do it or not, or whether they will allow these rules to be debated in the country for some time. We will see. So, what are the amendment rule is? What are the amendment rules are? What are the proposed amendment rules are? Each state government shall make available for deputation to the central government. That means, now each state government shall make shall make available for deputation to the central government. That means now in the earlier rule, that means in the existing rule, like, does really all the state governments are sending that reserve list every year to the center? The answer is no. Some states are sending, some states are not sending. That is the reason why what they said is, every year you shall means in our legal language, shall means compulsory. So, you shall make the availability of this central deputation reserve to the union government. How many people you want to send, and how many people you want to send, we don't take how many people you are interested to send, but we will take from that, but you shall make available that reserve to the union government. So, this is the first thing. So, now the state cannot abdicate its responsibility by saying anything. You have to make this list available every year to the center, and whenever they are preparing this list, definitely they will seek the consent of the officer, and they will pass on the circulation, like, whoever are interested in going to the union, just give it to their names and everything to me. And once that is there, then state must send this list to the union. Okay, first point. Second, what they are going to do is, so what could be the total central deputation reserve, and the central deputation reserve and the total overall eligible officers. See, the total number of officers and also deputation reserve, the total allocation to the state and as well as the deputation reserve, both things will be decided by the union government at an appropriate time, and the actual number of officers to be deputed to the central government shall be decided by the central government in consultation with the state government. That means how many people they wanted to take, that will be done by the central government. Anyway, in the present case also, the union government is deciding the number. But the point is, whether that 40% limit is there or not, we have to wait till the clarification comes. But in the existing rules, they have not mentioned like union government will decide the total deputation reserve to the maximum extent of 40% of the total strength of all India services. They have not mentioned it. So, that means if they want to take more than 50%, we don't know. But the point is that, so central government will decide. So, the actual number of officers to be deputed to the central government. Next, third point, if in case of any disagreement, the matter shall be decided by the central government and the state government has to accept that. That means the state government shall give effect to the decision of the central government within a specified time. Now, this was already there. That means, suppose if there is any dispute or disagreement between the union and state government, the decision of the union government prevails, and if the state is not taking anything on that, then union government consider that the state has already accepted this decision, but within a specified time. That means, union asked for a particular set of officers, state rejected it, but union said like, my decision is valid and please decide within 3 months. And after that 3 months, union government considers that the state government has accepted my proposal or the union's proposal. So, this is there now also. But what extra thing they have done is, so the union government decision will be binding on the state government in a specified time, because you have to give a reply within a specified time. If you don't give, it will be considered like union government decision you have accepted. And one more important thing apart from that is, suppose union want to send an officer, union wanted an officer from the state government, and you have not relieved that officer, and within a specified time, even if you don't take any decision, then the officer shall stand relieved from the cadre from the date as may be specified by the central government. That means sometimes if there is a disagreement, okay, it's fine, union decision is fine. But if they are delaying the things, and suppose if a union says like a particular officer has to be relieved from the cadre of so and so state, and it has to be deputed to the union, and if state don't take any action on that, and there is a specified time period that is decided by the union government, and after that you will be automatically relieved from this particular state. That means state is not going to have any control. So that means if state is not interested, if state delaying the things, then you can't do anything. After certain time, he is automatically relieved from the state and he will go to the union. Because I will give an example. One IPS officer from Tamil Nadu, union wanted to send him in a deputation to the Central Bureau of Investigation. That officer is interested, but the state government is not interested to send that officer. And that IPS officer, he disobeyed the orders of the state government and he joined in the CBI. Then immediately state government suspended that officer, because still his cadre lies with the state. And when the cadre lies with the state, then state can take any decision. But here the point is, we are giving some time. Within that time, if you don't relieve that officer, we will consider it as automatically relieved from that particular cadre. Now the state is not going to have any authority on that officers. So this is another important thing that they have proposed. So next, another important thing is, apart from this, suppose in a specific situation, when a union government thinks that the services of a particular officer is required at the union level in the larger public interest, then the central government may seek the services of such officer and they may ask that officer to post it under union government. That means in the larger public interest, if any specific situation arises, if a union thinks that it's better if you have such an officer, but he is working in a particular state, then they may ask that officers to come to the union level. That means union can choose any officer. To come to the union level. That is as a special case, that too in the public interest. So this must be there. Again, in this case, if state don't give any approval, then immediately, if the state don't give any approval, immediately union government can have that overriding power. But you may get a question, if officer himself is not interested. If officer himself is not interested, then union cannot take, but they may put some disciplinary action on that. Suppose just take a person A, and union thinks like his services are very interested, but he is not interested to come. Then immediately they say, okay, if that is the case, you will not be allowed to be deputed to the union level for next 5 years or 6 years. Such type of things they can take. But anyhow, if you looking into the proposed amendment rules, it clearly says that in the earlier rule, though we have mentioned like union is having some overriding powers over the state, but most of the times the state is having the power with them. Without the concurrence of the state government, it is very difficult to take the officers from the state cadre to the union level. So, though the rule says that if there is a disagreement between the state and union, union can have an overriding power, but that was not implemented mostly. But if you see the present rule, they are categorically mentioning like you shall make the availability of that reserve, and also the central government is having that overriding power in a specified period of time, and that too this entire officers can be considered as relieved from the state cadre if you don't relieve it in an appropriate time, and how many officers must be taken care, that will be decided by the central government. And in the public interest for a specific situation, they can ask any officer to come to the union level to serve at the union level. So, these are the 4 proposed amendments, and these proposed amendments were forwarded to the state level and to all the state governments. Some of the state governments are rejected, that means rejected in the sense they are not interested in accepting these type of proposals. They are saying like this is something against the federalism. They are saying like this is something taking the powers of the state. This is something like interfering with the administration of the state government. Because suppose in a state government, an officers, they are working in a key departments, and state has started a very good project and it is very important, and the officers in charge for that project should be continued for at least 3 to 4 years. But suppose if that officer want to go to the union level, and state government is not relieving, then how this problem will be solved? Because he is interested to go to the union level, but state is not allowing because state needs that officer, and at the same time union government also need that officer. So, this is a conflict. But what the states are saying is, in the existing system, we are having the power, and if we give NOC, then only this officer will go. But now in a back door, that means with these amended rules, what you are saying? You are saying like, if I want, I can take anybody. Okay, if you take everybody, then what about administration in the state? Suppose if some officers, unfortunately, to some extent they are biased to the some of the state governments, and obviously when they are working in a state government, they have to obey the orders of the state political executive. But union government sometimes arguing that these people they are not following the rules, they are not following the constitution, simply they are serving the political executive in the state. And suppose if union don't like those officers, then immediately they may recall these officers to the union level. Immediately they may ask these officers to come to the union level. That has happened in case of the Chief Secretary of West Bengal, Alpan Bandyopadhyay. But later, immediately when they called, he resigned from that post. That's a different story. But the point here is, on the one hand, the states are accusing that, you are trying to tampering with the existing officer system in this country, and without the consent of the state, you want to take anybody, and you may politically use the officers, you may threaten the officers. So this is something wrong. That is the reason why most of the states are, not most, but all the opposition party states and even some of the ruling party states are also, they are not interested in these type of rules. Because the point is, they are working under a state government, let them allow. But on the other hand, union government point is that, see the strength of the union level. If no one is working at the union level, how can we resolve it? So on the one hand, union's argument is correct. On the other hand, state's argument is also correct. If you immediately, abruptly, if you take away some officer, then how we will do our function? Because he is some sort of an experienced person. His services are necessary. And the point is, if the officer himself is not interested, then there is no problem. If the officer himself is not interested, then there is no problem. If he is not interested to go to the union, if union wants it, then they may take some sort of discipline thing. Just now I have mentioned it. But another important point is why actually this issue is coming. Why not this issue has arisen till these many days? See, the point is normally states always want their officers to be at central level. Normally always what states want is, they wanted some of their state owned cadre officers to be placed at the union level, because if an officer from a particular state cadre, if he is at the union level, then the officers can really have some sort of soft corner towards the state, because they are going to implement lot of schemes, and especially they know the realities of our state, and whenever they are framing the rules, they will keep the local conditions of this particular state in mind and they will frame the rules. That is the reason why always the state governments wanted their officers to be in the union level. Normally this happens, and if that happens, that is really a good thing. Because when union asks some people, the states will ready to send some of the officers, because it is helping to both the union and as well as the state. An experienced person is going to the union, and also the state's requirements are also met if their own officer is at the union level. So when this thing is going on in a cordial way, suddenly why they have brought these rules, and why states started opposing? Why states are not saying like, okay, we don't want to send the officers? The point here is, it's not about these cordial relations, but it's about some disciplinary action on some of the officers. The point is that why actually the strength is low means, the states are interested to send some of the officers, because states always want their officers to be at the union level. But why the strength is low? Union is saying like, you are not sending the officers, so I am amending the rule. What state is saying like, no, you are using this as a political tool. The point here is when these officers has started taking this political turn, then this issue has started. Because earlier, if it is for the development and if it is for the regular day-to-day affairs, then it could not have been a problem. But when some of the officers they are not obeying the exact rules and regulations, then immediately center thought like, this is not the way to deal, and we wanted to deal it in a different way. Otherwise, how could the country has run for last 70 years? It has run with a cordial relationship, and if that cordial relationship continues, then there is no problem. But some officers are doing like that, and center want to deal it in a different way. But is this warranted? Is it really a good thing? No, it cannot be a good thing. You cannot take officers forcibly without the consent of the state government, because state needs some of the officers, because these are the best brains of the country. But at the same time, officers must be so transparent, and as well as they should not take any sides. So the issue here is, I do agree that there is a concern that at the union level the number of posts are, the number of people are very less, but at the state level these rules can be misused. The only thing is that you must have a cordial relations. But I'll tell you one more thing. Suppose just assume like this is a low number. Why this much low number is there at the union level, and you want to bring these type of amendments and these type of reforms, and they are creating some problem to the states without causing any problem to the state level? Is there any other solution so that you can strengthen or you can increase the number of officers at the union level? If really the union government's motto is to increase the officers at the union level, you can deal it in a different way. But if you want to deal the issue in a different way, because the officers are something so close to the politicians, and they are not respecting the union, they are not abiding, they are not run according with the rules and regulations, and if you want to deal, definitely you can deal in this way. We are not against that the officer should not go to the union level. Officers should go to the union level and they must use the state level experience, but it must happen in a cordial way. And it must be settled in a with some sort of negotiations. Simply you cannot bulldoze the things. This is not a good for a federal polity. Okay. So now I'll tell you what are the other ways through which we can resolve this dispute, because it is creating a problem between union and state. See, there are some solutions that are available in the public domain. If really they implement, then they can solve that problem. If your problem is that only less number of officers are at the union level. Now I'll give you some of the points. One is the total recruitment of officers is less. The total recruitment of officers is very less. And when the total recruitment of officers is less, definitely there is a problem. Definitely there is a problem. Why can't you increase the recruitment itself? That is the very first important point. You just increase the recruitment so that huge amount of people available, then you can get the good, then you can get substantial amount of officers to the union level. I am not saying like you should increase to such an extent where you can dilute the entire system, but okay, you can increase, and if you increase there is no problem, and state is also having sufficient amount of officers and you can get that. You can get that sufficient number of officers from the state. Next, second is some of the officers they don't want to go to the union level. In some cases states are not allowing because they need that officer, but in most of the cases what happened is these officers don't want to go to the union level because they are not liking the working culture at the union level, because it's completely an office related job, and that too they believe like it's something, it is completely a top down approach at the union level. That means whatever your boss said you have to implement it, but these are not new people, these are already experienced people who are going to the union as a deputation. They have some field knowledge and you simply follow the top down approach, definitely they don't like it. They don't like it. That is the reason why your work culture at the union level must be changed. Your work culture at the union level must be changed, and your systems in such a way that it should attract the officers to the union level. The officer should feel like, oh, if I go to the union level, I can do my work comfortably, I can use my knowledge, I can do something. Such a level of work culture you must bring. Simply you can't change these rules like, okay, if I need someone, I'll take, who are you to say, I no need to take anything. So this is another way of dealing the problem. This is another way of dealing the problem. Next, another important thing is there must be a proper cadre review. Proper cadre review. So what is this cadre review means? I said like for every 5 years union and state decides how many officers must be allocated to each and every state. Then state will give like, okay, I need this much amount of posts. Then immediately union asks what are the posts and what are the things you need. So immediately state gives the list of, okay, I have these many departments and these many things, and so I need these many officers. Whenever you are doing a cadre review, you must be very careful that, which positions are strategically important, which positions are at most important. You cannot have the IAS officer as a head or IPS officer as a head to each and every petty department. You cannot. And that too when the resources are very limited, and that too it is something a very highly qualitative job, then you must use them very carefully. You can't assign simply IAS officers to some unimportant positions. And when you are deciding the cadre review, then you must be very careful like what is the exact number of officers that must be necessary to any state. You cannot create more number of these strategic posts so that always every state like, no, I have 100 departments, so I need 100 officers. But does really the 100 departments are necessary? Even if it is necessary, does all the 100 departments are having same strategic importance? And if not, why you need that much? So if you do a proper cadre review, definitely you will have some extra resources. And whenever they are free, they can occupy that position, but whenever union demands, definitely these people will go there. So that should also be done. Next, one more thing is downsizing of central ministries. Downsizing of central ministries. So what is this meaning of downsizing? Because some of the subjects will be dealt by both union and state. And when the same subject dealt by union and state, you no need to have many officers at the union level to deal that. Take the case of agriculture, take the case of animal husbandry, take the case of some of the list in concurrent, some of the items in the concurrent list. And some of the items which are in the state list are also dealt by the union. In that, when state is already having its own departments and they are having their own network, you no need to have much number of positions at the union level. So downsizing at the union level, so that you can reduce your demand for officers. Increase the total recruitment is one. Top down work culture must be changed at the union level, and the proper cadre review must be done, and downsizing of the officers or the system at the union level should be done. Now, one more thing, even at the union level, I will give you this hierarchy so that you can understand. See, normally we are having a ministry. Under a ministry, you will have the department. And below the department, you are having the wing. And below the wing, you will have the branch. Below the wing, you will have the division. And below the division, you will have the branch. And when it comes to the officers hierarchy, normally a department headed by secretary or additional secretary, and a wing can be, special secretaries normally, special secretaries or secretaries. Wing can be by additional secretaries or joint secretaries, and a division can be dealt by a deputy secretary or directors. Like these are the things. Now the point is, whenever this lower level positions are there, that means like director, deputy director, why can't you promote, why can't you use some of the officers which will be met through the promotion? Because there are some group B officers which works in the same department, and why can't you promote them at least to the lower level? Okay, for the higher level we can understand. At least to the lower level, why can't you do that? So that is also one of the possible case. If at least for the lower one level, if you make use of the existing officers, then your union level officers demand may not be that much high. So that is one more thing that we are proposing. Next, another important thing is at the state level there is a concept called conferred officers, conferred IAS officers and conferred IPS officers. That means the people who are recruited through the state level exam, they can be given a position of IAS, and after completion of certain service, now they are holding the same IAS level, but the point is they cannot work at the union level. They are having the position of IAS, but they can only serve the state. Now why can't you use the service of those people? And if you think like, okay, they are older people, there are some younger people at the younger age, they got the conferred IAS status. So why can't you use those people whenever there is a pool is available? because these people are now not at all accepted to serve at the union level. And if you don't want to allow those state level conferred IAS officers to the highest position, at least you can consider it for the lower position also, no? At least for the lower position. So that is one more thing that we can do. Next, another important aspect is stringent rules for central deputation. Stringent rules for central deputation. Stringent rules for central deputation means they will put lot of conditions for central deputation. Suppose once they have given an offer, no, if you don't accept that offer, then immediately they will say like, no, okay, I don't consider you for next 10 years. Or suppose if at all you want to hold a position of the joint secretary, if at all you want to hold the position of joint secretary at the union level, and there is a condition like you must serve at least 2 years in between 9 to 16 years of your service. You must serve at least 2 years in between 9 to 16 years of your service as a deputy director or at a deputy secretary or director level. That means after gaining a 9 years of experience as an officer in the service, the union is asking that officers to serve at the lower level for 2 years, then only I will consider you for the higher position. But at the time of 9 years, they are holding a good position at the state level. Why they will work at this lower level? So the point is there are some stringent rules in this. So these rules must be relaxed and you need to give some sort of flexibility to the officers. So if you bring these type of reforms, definitely you can encourage the officers to work at the union level, and also you can make available of existing resources in a better way, give some sort of opportunities to the other talent pool at least at the lower level, and increase the overall recruitment and change the work culture. This is the way you need to deal the things. No state don't want to send their officers to the union level. Every state want their officers to be at the union level, because that is in the interest of that state. But the point is, when you try to deal the issue it in a different way, definitely this problem comes. Ultimate authority is the union government. That doesn't mean that you will exercise your extreme powers in every time. That is not at all good for the normal administrative function. And the states, definitely they are interested, but the point is, whenever you are using this political tool, then definitely it creates a problem. And if at all something goes wrong, you can take a disciplinary action, but a forceful thing cannot work. But anyhow, as the officers are worked at both union and state level, the state level officers must also be encouraged to work at the union level, because after all, union is also very important. They are taking the highest policy making level. So definitely we should not reduce the strength at the union level. If really some states are taking an extreme step that not to send anyone to the union, then that issues can be dealt in a separate way. But you cannot make the change to the overall rule like I will give blanket power to the union government. That is also not correct. Ultimate authority always lies with the union, but that ultimate power should be used with some sort of discretion, and it cannot be used every time. Okay. Anyway, these proposals are in the public domain. Now they are debatable, but the point here is you must be very careful when it comes to these officers. So this tussle between union and state, so it's not completely administrative. If you think like it is administrative, you can deal it in a separate way. But if you want to consider it as a political issue and you want to deal it in by changing the rules in a different way, then that is not something good. It is something concerning to the federalism. Because after all, the states are also very important, because when the state grows, then only the country grows. And the officers must be given some opportunity to work at the state level. At the same time, the states must also give some sort of opportunity to take the officers to the union level. And moreover, there must be a changing culture, and you must attract the officers to the union level. But anyhow, these are the points that are the rules that are proposed, and these are the alternative solutions that we can offer. And what exactly the problem with the earlier rules and the newly proposed rules, and what are the problems of the state government and what are the problems of union government. So this is all about All India services. So these are the common service for both union and as well as the state government. They must serve at the both the level with some sort of coordination, but not with this something like a dispute type of dealing. So these things doesn't work. Okay. So very important, you may get a question in the paper 2. You may get a question in the paper 2 of GS. Okay. Thank you.
Amrita IAS Academy.